Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're listening to this show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, but proud to be American by choice, welcoming you to episode 279 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. And to everyone, this is going to be a fun show. This is coming for the last time from Southwest Florida. Yes, my sojourn in the Sunshine State has come to an end. I don't know where I'm going to be going in the near future. I think next week's show will likely come from the home studio. But after that, who knows? Sometimes my job has its exciting aspects, not knowing where you'll be working in the next few weeks. Anyway, but not, enough about me. We've got plenty to discuss tonight, and so I'm going to get right into it. The title for tonight's show was Trump Trumped, and a bit more. Obviously centering around last week's first GOP debate that was broadcast on Fox, and all the firestorm after that, as if there hadn't been enough firestorm around Trump beforehand, but also everything after that. But before we do that, some good news. I want you to imagine the scene. There's a bunch of people standing out on a dusty, sandy plain outside a village. A little village with mud huts, brick huts, obviously very poor. The crowd were terrified, many of them in tears, and soon a man and his young son were pulled from the crowd, blindfolded, and placed on their knees. A tall, bearded man emerged and drew a long knife. He began addressing the crowd and slapping the father and his son around the head and kicking them onto the floor. More of the crowd started wailing and yammering. The knife-wielding jihadist continued as he was flanked by two men toting AK-47s. Nothing like a couple of guns to keep people under control, right? Then the unexpected happened. The ISIS thug who was about to decapitate the father fell to the ground, shot in the head, and collapsed. Everyone just stared in confusion. The sniper then dispatched the two henchmen with single shots, 3 kills with 3 bullets. After the militants were killed, the people untied the boy and his father, and they ran off towards the Turkish border. So what exactly happened here? Well, it was a British Special Forces sniper who saved the lives of the boy and the father by firing at the head of the executioner. The sniper was more than half a mile away, about 1,000 meters, 1 kilometer, according to a British newspaper. The Daily Star said a unit of Britain's Special Forces Special Air Service that were carrying out covert patrols on the Syrian-Turkish border was tipped by an Iraqi spy to the execution site where Shiites accused of being infidels were going to be beheaded. An unnamed military source told the newspaper that there were several decapitated bodies already lying on the ground in the village where the field trial and punishment were underway. The SAS ground unit had moved into position just outside the village where the gruesome punishment was being meted out. And that's when the SAS sniper killed the executioner using a .50 caliber rifle shot from 1,000 meters away. And as we said before, that's more than half a mile. The Star reported that the sniper plan had gelled after the unit rejected calling in an aerial drone attack due to the risk that innocent bystanders would be killed. It was a good work, the unnamed military source told the Star. So we can fight them and just make them scared, as one of the candidates last week in the debate said, you have to make them scared of being part of ISIS. They have to know that by joining ISIS, they are signing their own death warrant. Okay, folks, so let's go on to the debate. And as I said in the title, was Trump trumped? Is the fix in for Donald? Megyn Kelly was claiming good, hard journalism. But the question is, was she encouraged or even ordered to come in as hard as she did? Or did the three of them, Megyn, Brett, and Chris Wallace, kind of dream up this attack? For example, Brett's question straight off the bat about who would support the eventual candidate if they were not that person, and where Donald was the only one to raise his hand, as if we didn't know that that was what he would say, but they just had to make him stand up in front of the country and do it. Now, journalistic, yes. But to kick off the debate immediately that way, so hard, very negative. I think that question would have been much better later on, because a question like that sets the tone, I believe. And I believe that they were trying to piss Donald off. Pardon my French. So, was it Fox? Was it not? I've also heard an unsubstantiated report that Roger Ailes actually called the Donald after the debate and apologized and said this was not deliberately done by Fox. Of course, we don't know. And the Donald did appear on Hannity tonight and gave a very good story around all of the questions. Some of the questions he continues, I have to be honest, to skirt a little bit around. Hannity was trying to pin him down very specifically, and sometimes he kind of gets carried away with things, and it's difficult to pin down. On the other hand, are we looking for a leader that has all of the answers in his head? I'm not. I'm looking for someone who can go out and find the right people. And that was one of the things in the Hannity interview that really struck me. How he was talking about bringing other economists and business people in to help with negotiations with foreign countries like China and Japan. And just the fact that what we know of Donald, he is the sort of person to bring in lots of good advisors and get advice from them. And at the end of the line, he'll listen to their advice, and then he'll take his own decisions and push forward on those, which is also what a leader does. So anyway, so it was rather strange that there was this sort of concerted attack on the Thursday, and then over Friday and Saturday, other stories started surfacing, this time from the left wing, citing anonymous sources at Breitbart that said Trump was buying positive stories on the site. Very strange. Well, maybe not so strange, right, that these unfounded stories surface combined with everything else that's going on. And it's very easy to say, well, we've got these anonymous sources. Breitbart has issued a statement saying that it is categorically not true. Donald Trump doesn't advertise on the site, and in actual fact, he doesn't even advertise as many of the other candidates do, and they wished he would. But he doesn't advertise, he doesn't give them money, they've said. So it's very easy to say, well, we've got these anonymous sources who supposedly work for Breitbart, but if they're anonymous, then you can't prove anything. So here we have a concerted, almost looks like an organized effort, I think, by the political elites to prevent an outsider from taking away their power and benefits. I think it just shows how really scared they are. And the bad news for them is that the more they bring down Trump, the more Cruz and Fiorina rise in the polls. And the new chosen one, right, yes, that's right, Jeb Bush, remains flat, generating little or no excitement. Well, how could he? He's probably one of the most boring candidates there. I think his only numbers come from the GOP sheeple. It's that part of the GOP who will vote as they are told by the political elites. And while we have this barrage of distortions and innuendos right now focusing on Trump, and let's look at the last election, as each candidate rose to the top in some or other poll, in some or other primary election, all of a sudden a barrage of distortions, innuendos, half-truths, untruths, and maybe now and again a little bit of truth, rose up as a tidal wave to swamp the candidate. The difference is the other candidates, in a way, weren't ready to fight back, and they all dropped back. Look at Michelle Bachmann, Huckabee, Newt Gingrich, and then they all just Herman Cain, right? They just sort of said, okay, well, Herman Cain said, okay, these allegations aren't true, but I'm going to pull out anyway because I don't want to subject my family to this. I can't see Donald doing that. He's going to turn around and he's going to give as good as he gets. And I think somebody like Fiorina especially will do that. Cruz, being a politician, a little less so. The Rubios, the Bushes, etc., if they get really lambasted, they're going to give up. But anyway, so why all the fuss around Trump, and why is the GOP so worried about it? Well, I like what Laura Ingraham said. She said, here's an idea for the GOP. If you actually do stuff that Republican voters want, you wouldn't have to worry about Donald Trump. But Republicans don't do what Republican voters want. Republicans actually do a lot of things that Democrats want. That's a very insightful statement there from Laura Ingraham. And because I don't think that the GOP is going to listen to that, actually doing stuff that Republican voters want, then I don't think Donald Trump is going away. And the Washington elites are very definitely running scared. I would use the word for excrement there because that's really, I think they've all got brown underwear right now, just thinking about the possibility that he would become president and basically take away all of their benefits, their power, etc. Now, in the polls, he has dropped some. We have to be honest. And after the break, I'll talk about that, which is not surprising because there's going to be a number of people, especially when interviewed for a poll, who don't like any controversy. And so they're going to say, well, I'm not going to vote for him now. But as they continue to hear his story and decide that actually they do agree with his story, in spite of how it's being distorted and messed around by the media and the elites, he will continue to lead, I think, with some significant numbers. Anyway, folks, it's time to take a quick break. Got to pay the rent. As I like to say, if you have need of any of the services that are advertised on this show, please call the 800 numbers that are quoted there. I don't get paid for running these. I only get paid when people actually inquire about them, and there are some useful services here. So I will be back right after these messages and listen to the 800 numbers.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And we're back from those messages, talking about Donald Trump. Going to hope to get some other topics today, but I think we're also going to spend quite a bit on Trump. On other shows, I've said I don't really like to talk about what everybody's talking, but this is such a gorilla in the room that I feel I can't ignore him. So, to get back to the title of the show, was Trump trumped? What happened after the Fox debate, and then some of the controversy afterwards with him saying some things, and then people choosing to interpret those in a very negative way. And of course, this is the thing, when they want to bring someone down, it's very easy to take anything you say, even something innocent, where he said blood was spurting out of her eyes and whatever, meaning her that people say, oh, well, what he really meant with whatever was he was making reference to her menstrual cycle. I think that is pushing things so far, just looking for something to bring someone down. But yeah. And like to say hi to Rex, who's in the chat room. Just a reminder, if you are listening live to the show, click on the little speech bubble in your Spreaker box there, and that will take you to the chat room. Rex was saying that perhaps a Trump Fiorina ticket is what it's going to end up. Who knows? I'm also wondering whether Ted Cruz might be in the mix. Apparently Donald and Ted seem to be relatively close, so be interesting to see. Now, since the bust-up last week and everything going on over the weekend, there have been some polls that were taken sort of Friday, Saturday, Sunday. First of all, let's look at New Hampshire. So you'd think New Hampshire has Trump gone down. He's gone down some. Has he gone down a lot? Well, he's still 5 points ahead of Bush, who kind of sticks where he's been all the time. The very surprising number for me is at number 3 is Kasich has come up now and is only 1 point, which is well within the margin of error, because it's almost 5% margin of error. So Kasich is up at 12%, Cruz is at 10%, and coming in 5th is Carly Fiorina. So her performance in the children's table debate, as some people called it, really has catapulted her into the top league, and she will definitely be part of the next debates. It's obvious. Someone who's probably not going to be there is Governor Rick Perry, who unfortunately got demoted to the happy hour debate, and apparently only just by Kasich, and then did not perform all that well there. Fiorina, outshone him very obviously, and apparently he's already started putting some of his staff around the country on notice and saying, you can stay with me as a volunteer, but we're not going to be able to pay you. He's not getting the money. I think all of the money is going to Fiorina, and it's not going to be very good news, I think, over the next week or two for Governor Perry. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. So it's amazing. So Trump's staying on top there. And it isn't just in New Hampshire. There's also an Iowa poll, also basically taken over the weekend, sort of Friday through Monday. Almost the same margin of error, so above 4%. There, he also leads by 5%. This time, though, he's ahead of Walker, which is obvious for Iowa, because it's right next door to Walker's home state. Rubio is at 10%. Carson there is at 9%. Cruz is in the top 5. And Fiorina is just at number 6 with the same 7% that Cruz has. So 10% away from Trump. Trump is 10% ahead of that top in that top 6 group, which is not a lot, but at the end of the line, it's all you need. All you need is 0.5%, and in the winner-take-all states, you get all of the votes, and otherwise you're still going to get a sizable chunk of everything. So the message, though, I think, is the fact that Fiorina has jumped up and has catapulted in there. And Now the question is, yes, is it something that will catapult her into a VP position? I mean, if you look at them, both of the two polls, Cruz and Fiorina at the same level, different group of people in between Trump and the others, though, right? In New Hampshire, Bush is up there. Iowa, he's not anywhere there. Now, in Iowa, the interesting thing is, even though Trump is still way up at the top, the actual winners of the main debate, when asking those same 500 likely GOP caucus goers, those same voters said that Rubio and Carson were winners, with 23% for Rubio, 22% for Carson, not Trump. And I think they were right. Trump didn't win. He didn't do as well as he could. The whole mess with Megyn Kelly kind of I think put him off a bit. But while Rubio did get a post-debate bump in the survey, in the national poll, he dropped from a high percent of 13 down to 6%. So, and asking the voters who won the happy hour debate, 82% thought she won that, and 93% thought she needs to be included in the next debates. We call them debates, by the way. They're not really debates. They're timed statements, timed news conferences. Now, in a national debate, the lamestream media is so happy to say Trump slips in the Rasmussen poll, which was a national debate, because he was down to 17%, which is down from the original 26% that he was in late July. So in a week or 2 weeks, he has slipped by 10 percentage points. And as I said earlier in the show, not surprising, because I think for a lot of voters there is some aversion to controversy, and the fact that he was embroiled in controversy, they may be kind of saying, well, they're thinking again. Of course, the question is, are they switching to someone else? Or are they just saying, well, we're going to wait and see what happens? And I wouldn't be at all surprised if you actually go in and analyze those numbers very closely, that's actually what was happening. Now, others have jumped. So Rubio jumped as well from 5 to 10%, so mirroring a little bit where he stood in the state polls that I just mentioned, tying for second place with Bush. So Bush is still at 10%, which is no different to where he was before. And I think that sums it up for Bush. There is no excitement from him. He's probably one of the most boring candidates there. No excitement around him. It's just the big money and the Washington elite pushing Jeb Bush. I don't think he's going to make it. Same way that everybody is in the Democratic Washington elite side is pushing Hillier. I don't think she's going to make it either. Of course, the big winner again was Carly Fiorina, because she ended up tying with Scott Walker on the national poll, both at 9%. So again, only about 8% behind Trump. This is going to be an interesting primary season. Because look at that. So you've got the first 5 or 6 people, not more than 10 points apart, fighting for all these votes. It's going to be very, very interesting. Now, let's go back to Trump. One of the things that happened over the weekend was that despicable affair around Bernie Sanders is one of his campaign stops. Now, I don't agree with what Bernie Sanders is selling. On the other hand, I've always said he is one of the few politicians in Washington, for which I have a little bit of respect, because he basically stands up and says what he believes, and he stands by it, and so many don't, and so I can respect him for that, even though I don't agree with his with what he's saying. And one of the disgusting things that happened is that the Black Lives Matter activists came in and basically shouted him down. So these are basically Democrats, right? Regressives shouting down a fellow regressive just because they wanted to push their own thing. Now, Trump was questioned about that, and he said it was disgusting how Sanders handled the situation. He said the way he was taken away by two young women, the microphone, they just took the microphone, took over the whole place. And the audience, which liked him, they're saying, what's going on? How can this happen? He said, that will never happen to me. I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or other people, but that was a disgrace. I felt badly for him, but it showed that he was weak. Believe me, that's not going to happen to Trump. And nor is it going to happen to Hillyer, because they very conveniently there shut the door on those activists and claimed the event was full to capacity, and so they couldn't let them in. But okay, folks, I see it's time for our next commercial break. Stick with me. I will be back after these messages.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blindness and the risk of amputation, as well as all those other side effects? Well, you should be. Is there anything that could help manage your blood sugar? Nobetes is a natural supplement that may quickly and dramatically lower your blood sugar.
My name is Bob Corder. I've been using Nobetes for about 3.5 to 4 months now, and in the first 3 months, I've actually lowered my blood sugars from 500s down to 139, and then it dropped to 88 to 93.
My name is Kirsten. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and while taking Nobetes, my blood sugar levels dropped from 295 to 115 in just 1 day.
The FDA hasn't evaluated these statements, and Nobetes isn't intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But for many, it's helped drop their blood sugar. So if you've been evaluated with high blood sugar, don't delay. Evaluate Nobetes now. Call 800-424-3790 and get 2 bottles free. Just cover shipping and handling. Call 800-424-3790. That's 800-424-3790.
The offer of a franchise can only be made through delivery of a franchise disclosure document. Imagine yourself being a leader in America's fastest growing demographic category. More than 10,000 people a day turn 65, and a large percentage are going to need a helping hand at home or in choosing the right assisted living community. Always Best Care is looking for people who've excelled at everything they've done, but they're seeking a new challenge. Always Best Care is one of the fastest growing companies in this explosive field. We're looking for 25 new franchisees to keep our booming business growing. We'll back you up with the strongest award-winning marketing program in the industry, and we'll provide the special training and support that's fueled our growth to prepare you for this great opportunity. All that's missing is you. Call Always Best Care toll-free at 1-800-643-7508. That's 1-800-643-7508. For Always Best Care, 1-800-643-7508. Call today.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, welcoming you back to the second half of the show. Just a reminder, especially for new listeners, if you want to contact me and you're not in the chat room, and I have to admit most of my listeners do listen to rebroadcast or to the recordings, so they can't be in the live chat room, send me an email. Stefan at patrickcomelately.us is my email address, and send me your questions, comments, feedback, whatever. Love to hear from my listeners. I'll try and answer you in a future show, and also I will send you an email back and give you an answer via email as well, so you don't have to wait for the next show. If you don't want to use email, you can also contact me through the web by going to my website, www.patriotcomelately.us. And I do want to remind you, if you don't already know, this show is rebroadcast on a couple of networks. One is Red State Talk Radio Network, probably the premier conservative talk radio network on the internet. They have 2 streams now. Primo Mondoni has expanded out 2 streams, Studio A, Studio B, and I have 2 shows broadcast during the week on Studio A, 2 on Studio B. Primo is often moving things around as new shows come on, so just go to the site, redstatetalkradio.com, check the schedules if you want to know when I'm being broadcast. And the other one is the 405 Media, also known as the 405 Radio, out on the left coast there. And they also rebroadcast, I think it's something like 11 a.m. Pacific on a daily basis. They'll take the later show and broadcast it on a daily basis. So you can pick it up there. In whichever time zone you are, another opportunity. And as I said, for those of you that are listening live, you don't need to use those, but you can if you want to go back and listen to certain things. But I would ask you, please do tell your friends about the show. Want to get these messages out. And one of the messages is, although talking a lot about Donald Trump today, there is one thing that was slightly disquieting, and of course there was a lot more fuss made about in the news as well about this, the fact that Donald Trump had said that he would fund good aspects of Planned Parenthood. This was during an interview on CNN, and he said he was opening to funding some of the good aspects of Planned Parenthood. And of course, in the Hannity interview, he was specifically asked about that. On CNN, he'd said, I would look at the individual things that they do, and maybe some of the things are good. I know a lot of the things are bad, and definitely the abortion aspect should not be funded by the government, absolutely. So he actually reiterated that with Sean, and I don't think that's exactly quite the right thing. A couple of weeks ago, he agreed that for the defunding, he said that he felt that the Republicans, if needed, should force a government shutdown. It wouldn't be, as he said, it wouldn't be the Republicans shutting the government down. It would be the Democrats, and it would be a lot easier to show that it was them in this case. And he was talking about the defunding there. Now he's kind of softened a little bit. I'm not sure why that is. And for me, the issue is if you disagree with the fact that Planned Parenthood does so much for abortion services, that even if you give money, which you say, can it be used for that? Of course, it frees up their own money to use for these abortion services. And I think Donald Trump in that respect is wrong, but he's not perfect. He's not going to be perfect with everything. But I think he's wrong. What they should be doing is defunding Planned Parenthood and take the money that's supposed to be being used for true women's health issues, contraception and preventative care, and give it to other local type organizations that can give the same care that Planned Parenthood can. And that kind of answers all the issues and prevents this kind of ability to take money which supposedly is not going somewhere, but through accounting tricks can get done there. But anyway, so that's a bad thing. Now a good thing. Donald also announced his plan to destroy ISIS, the Islamic State. And he basically said the way to do it is to cut off their oil. They have too much oil. And every place where they have the oil, so where they're controlling the oil, I would knock the hell out of them, and I would put boots on the ground in those areas. I would take the oil. what you're doing is cutting off a big portion of their money source. The other part of their money source happens to be banks. Money is flowing in through banks in Saudi Arabia and other places. You have to cut that off. Now, I don't think that's going to be so difficult, because the Saudis are not so happy about ISIS. They're currently building a wall along the border with Iraq to prevent ISIS coming in. So I think cutting them off from the Saudi banks is not going to be that so difficult. Places like Qatar and Bahrain, a little less easy, but Saudi, not so. But he said, you've got to cut that off as well, but also the source of their wealth is the oil. And as Donald Trump says, and I agree with him, you probably have to put boots on the ground just to put some kind of wall of military between them and the oil. That's exactly what you have to do. You have to hurt them exactly where it matters in their bank accounts. Do that and you could stop ISIS dead in their tracks. And why do we need to do that? Well, let me tell you. Because there's just been news reports that ISIS executed 300 civil servants in the city of Mosul, of which 50 were women. These are 300 civil servants who worked for the Iraqi Supreme Electoral Commission. Well, why would they do that? Well, because these are people of note and of power. And the Electoral Commission said jihadists had also cut the throats of another group of their employees in Mosul. So it's more than 300. These 300 were lucky. They were shot. They didn't have their throats slit, which must be a horrible way to die. The Electoral Commission has asked the international community, the United Nations and human rights organizations to intervene to stop the massacre and crimes against Iraqi people. This is just unbelievable. The victim families have been informed of the deaths, but they did not receive the bodies, which in Islamic world is very bad, because you need to bury the body as soon as possible, and there are certain things you need to go to. ISIS claimed the victims were shot for being apostates and infidels, and were sentenced to their just punishment by a Sharia court established by the radical group. No, they were not apostates and infidels. They just thought differently than these people. In a few days, a list will be published, said a spokesman for ISIS, of 500 people recently executed in Mosul. 500. I mean, 2 days ago, there were reports of over 2,000 people being executed. These thugs have to be stopped. Now, for those of you that want to see a little bit what it could be like to be living in Mosul, there is a very interesting program on television. It's called Tyrant. It's broadcast on FX. Now, the particular episodes where that you want to see have already been broadcast, so you would need to go to something like Google Play or Vudu to see them, and you do have to pay for that, but I could recommend it. Season 2, starting, I can't remember whether it was episode 4 or 5, probably, a hardly veiled ISIS is introduced. Now, the producers of the show said they've taken care to make sure that the country in that series doesn't really look like any one particular country. They've tried to avoid using names and clans that exist in that part of the world. And so, obviously, they're not talking about ISIS, but you can see a lot of things are very similar, and you see their barbaric practices. You see them raping women, you see them throwing gays off of buildings, you see them shooting Westerners for no reason at all. just the only thing that the TV group do not do is decapitate people. That's the only difference between the real ISIS and them, but I think that's just a bit too much for the show. In actual fact, it's so true to life that I'm surprised that CARE and other Muslim Brotherhood organizations are not yammering about this portrayal of Muslim extremists as bloodthirsty rapists and killers. It's a mystery to me why you haven't heard them already. So as I said, take a look on Google Play or Vudu. You can watch it on your computer, tablet, smartphone, whatever. And I would suggest, if you like, go back to season 1. Season 1 doesn't cover this ISIS type things, but it's quite interesting, and it sets the scene for what happens in the second season, where things change quite a bit. Now, and go watch this if you want to be frightened, because imagine what's going on there happening here in America. And that's not impossible if we continue to allow this influx of non-assimilating immigrants into the country. Okay, folks, time for our final commercial break. So, as I say, stick with me, and I will be back after these messages.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And folks, we're into the final minutes of the show, and I want to get quickly to Hillyer, because last week I found some information that she had a thumb drive, a USB drive with her emails on it, and that was deposited with her private lawyer, and the Department of State was saying that Clinton does have counsel with clearance, because if there was any classified information on that thumb drive, there was no way her lawyer, a private lawyer, could have that. And the thumb drive supposedly contained classified information from as many as 5 intelligence agencies. But the State Department told Politico the law firm is taking appropriate measures to secure the files. Yeah, of course. So, the thumb drive is secure, they said. Yes, right. Well, I follow somebody on Twitter called Twin66. Good person to follow. Take that recommendation. And they tweeted, now it all makes sense. Hillary needs to be President of the United States so that she can pardon herself. Because today the news broke that the server and the thumb drive have been turned over to the FBI, and already they have found 2 emails on her private account that have been classified as top secret. And this is a higher classification that had even been discussed in the discussions to date now. And this is 2 out of a very small number that have been discovered. They said 2 of the 4 classified emails discovered on the server maintained at her New York home contained material deemed to be in one of the highest security classifications, more sensitive than previously known. The woman lied to us, and she did what she wasn't supposed to do. Petraeus was broken. His life was shattered because of that. And we let her get away with it, and we will, I know, but I don't see how we can do it. We have become a lawless country. It is absolutely unbelievable. People are saying, well, these Democratic district attorneys and Department of Injustice are not going to do anything about it. I don't think she can escape this. I think it's going to erode her standing. She's already on equal par with Bernie Sanders in some places, and people don't trust her, and I think that's pretty much it for her. 2-3 more months and I think she'll be gone, but we'll keep our fingers crossed because we don't want her. Anyway, folks, I see we're coming to the end of the show. I haven't quite handled as many of the other topics as I wanted to, but we did, of course, beat Trump to death, figuratively. We're going to wish him luck. We'll see what happens over the next few weeks. At the very least, what he has done is started making the GOP look a little bit more honest and live up to what we want, and take you back to that statement earlier in the show. Laura Ingraham said, if the GOP would do what the voters want, then they wouldn't have to worry about Trump. Maybe they'll get the message. They don't seem to have got it yet, and it's going to be interesting. Can you imagine if Trump did make it through and got the nomination, then and then got through and got voted in? Because if he makes the nomination, I'm sure he will win. Can you imagine? He will just clean out Washington. Finally, someone who can do it. And I think it would be very, very interesting times. But anyway, we can but dream. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for him, and if not him, for someone who's going to take up the same attitude and of take no prisoners. And could happen. Fiorina looks like it, although she also has a lot of liberal leanings in her from the past. And okay, well, we'll just have to see what will happen there, folks. It's time to say TTFN. Time has rushed up on us again. Do come back next week. Thanks for coming this week, and remember, please tell your friends. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.